You ever have one of those moments where you realize, out of nowhere, the life you've been building for a decade can get swept away in a single act of pettiness? Yeah, that was me, standing there on the edge of my muddy little plot in Riverglade, holding a cup of coffee that suddenly tasted like regret, staring at the place where my old wooden bridge used to cross a narrow sliver of lake. 20 years, that bridge had stood, letting me dream about the house I'd build someday. And just like that, it was gone. Splinters in the mud, yellow HOA sign nailed to a post, practically sneering at me. Structure removed for lake beautification. That's how it starts, right? Not with a bang, but with a little sign and a whole lot of arrogance. Now, I'm not one of these mansion owners with a 3-story dock and a fleet of jet skis. I'm Nathan, just a guy who worked for a decade, scraping together enough for a small plot wedge between homes worth more than I'll make in 3 lifetimes. But that was my land, my dream, and that rickety bridge, that was my lifeline. Of course, it wasn't just about the bridge. You know how these things go. Here comes Evelyn Harper, HOA president, Riverglade's self-appointed queen, heels sinking into the grass but head held high. Designer shades, fake smile, all that. Nathan, dear, we had to remove that eyesore, she purred, pretending to care. I pulled out my property deed, hands shaking, trying to sound braver than I felt. This bridge is legal, Evelyn. It's been here 20 years. It's my only way in. She just smiled that icy smile. Legal doesn't mean appropriate, dear. Maybe it's time you consider selling that plot. It's not really suited to someone in your circumstances. Circumstances. You know what I mean? It wasn't just a fight about wood and nails. She had a camera set up, red light blinking from the bushes, recording our whole conversation. Like she was daring me to make a wrong move. The HOA has spoken, she said, strutting back to her car. But she left an invitation to the next HOA meeting, like that would fix anything. By the time Ryan, my oldest friend, showed up, I'd already worn a path pacing in the mud. He took one look, whistled, and said, "We're not letting them push you around, man." I appreciated it, but inside, I was panicking. Without that bridge, getting to my own property meant bushwhacking through 2 miles of dense woods, and the November rains would turn that into a swamp. I went to that HOA meeting with a folder thick as a phone book, property laws, old regulations, copies of my deed. When I stood up to speak, it was like talking to a wall of money and smugness. This bridge has existed legally for 20 years, I said. You had no right to destroy it. The room erupted, one neighbor shouting I'd ruined their lake view, another worried about property values dropping. Evelyn just sat there, radiating fake concern, and every time she looked at me, I realized she didn't care about the bridge. She wanted my land. That night, Ryan and I rebuilt the bridge in the dark. Every swing of the hammer was half hope, half spite. At dawn, the new bridge stood. Ugly, maybe, but standing. That's when I saw her camera, still watching, still blinking. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Thank you for the evidence. See you at the next meeting." My stomach dropped. Evelyn had set me up, and I'd just handed her the ammo. A few days later, a certified letter arrived. $5,000 fine for unauthorized construction. If I didn't pay, they'd put a lien on my land, maybe even seize it. I make my living as an event planner. $5,000. That's 3 months' pay. I stumbled out to Ryan, who was fixing his truck in my driveway, and he nearly ripped the letter in half. "For rebuilding your own bridge? This is criminal." That's when Sophie Bennett showed up. The local florist, sweet woman, always treated me like a neighbor, not an eyesore. She handed me a basket of flowers and whispered, "Evelyn rigged the vote to change those building regulations." Only 12 people were at the meeting, but she counted 48 votes. Sophie's own business had nearly been destroyed by these same fines. 20 grand for non-compliant window displays. She was still paying it off. Her words stuck with me as the days passed, and the online message board lit up with accusations. Nathan thinks he's above the rules. Nathan's eyesore of a bridge is why we need strong HOA leadership, and so on. But when I started digging into the HOA records, public documents, meeting minutes, everything Sophie said checked out. The numbers didn't add up, the signatures were off, the whole thing reeked of fraud. The next time I saw Evelyn, I slammed those records on her desk. "That's election fraud, Evelyn. I'm calling my lawyer." She didn't even blink. "Prove it," she said, voice cold as ice. "And good luck affording it." Then she posted video from her camera, edited to make me and Ryan look like we were building the bridge out of spite. The comments turned uglier by the hour. I started getting dirty looks at the grocery store, folks whispering that I'd poisoned the lake. Photos of dirty water, taken miles from my property, started circulating as evidence of my environmental crimes. And then things got ugly. One night, I woke to the sound of rushing water, the stench of sewage so thick it made my eyes water. Someone had sabotaged a maintenance pipe at the edge of my land. Raw sewage oozed across my property, burying my bridge, killing any hope I had left. I tried to build a barrier with a shovel, but it was like trying to hold back a flood with my bare hands. That was my lowest moment. I just sat in the mud, lost. Ryan showed up, didn't say a word, just sat next to me and started telling a story about the time he poured fish sauce in his old boss's car vents after getting fired. Point is, man, sometimes you gotta get creative when folks push you into the mud. I laughed, even through my misery. Sophie came by, pressing a folder into my filthy hands. An environmental report Evelyn had filed before any of the supposed contamination even happened. She's setting you up, Nathan. She did this to me, too. You have to fight back. But when I tried to show neighbors the evidence, door after door slammed in my face. Even Harold Vaughn, one of Evelyn's board allies, looked sick with guilt but whispered, "Yacht Club," before shutting the door. That was a clue, a big one. Digging into real estate records with Ryan, we uncovered emails showing Evelyn was in talks with developers to sell land for a private yacht club dock. My plot was the key to their profits. Millions of dollars were at stake if she could force me out. Same playbook she'd used in Meadowbrook Estates 5 years ago. Find people, sabotage their properties, force a sale, then cash in. The rumor mill kept spinning. Suddenly, I was public enemy number one. Someone claimed I'd poisoned the lake to spite the HOA, and people started crossing the street to avoid me. Sophie got hit next. Evelyn threatened her with eviction and business inspections if she didn't say I'd doctored evidence. But at the next HOA meeting, the tension broke wide open. Sophie stood up, voice shaking but strong, and confessed everything. Evelyn's threats, the real emails, and the hidden concrete barrier under the lake, installed by Evelyn to keep the water levels high for her mansion views, killing the ecosystem for everyone else. The crowd exploded, half in shock, half in rage. The news reporter in the back took it all in. As the mob swirled, Sophie posted video proof online, and everything shifted. Suddenly, people weren't so sure who the villain was. That's when Ryan and I made our move. Under cover of night and thick fog, wetsuits on and tools in hand, we broke the illegal barrier, letting the lake flow naturally for the first time in years. The water rushed out, carrying decades of muck and sludge right onto the manicured lawns of the mansion crowd. The police showed up just as the chaos peaked. Lights, sirens, the works. We were arrested. But honestly, the look on those folks' faces as their perfect yards turned swampy? Worth it. Sophie brought a lawyer and a flash drive to the station the next morning. Evelyn had been caught on tape admitting to illegal acts, bribes, threats. The DA got involved. In court, the truth came out. Financial records, environmental crimes, confessions, and testimony from Harold Vaughn, who finally broke free from her grip. The judge ordered restitution, the HOA dissolved, and Evelyn Harper herself taken away in handcuffs. 7 years in federal prison. Her empire? Gone. 3 months later, I stood on my land again, the lake clear and alive, watching crews build the frame of my future home. Riverglade elected a new board, real transparency this time. Sophie's shop thrived. Ryan still tells everyone about our midnight demolition. Even Harold found a bit of peace. But you know what? That bridge, the one that started all this, wasn't just about wood and nails. It was about fighting for what's right, standing up when bullies seem unstoppable, refusing to let people like Evelyn Harper win. Sometimes, it takes a little courage, a lot of stubbornness, and a few good friends to change everything. So let me ask you, if your community tried to bully you out, would you fight back or would you walk away? Drop your thoughts below. Ever battled an HOA or seen injustice like this? I want to hear your story. Share it, debate it, because sometimes the best way to fix a broken system is to shine a light on it, together.